we got to talk about a boycott that happened at the Oakland A's home opener. Now, for those of you that don't know, me and Josh have been following this story. We talked about it the order when it first broke last fall, but there is sort of a controversy about Oakland potentially moving to Vegas, then not moving to Vegas, then potentially getting a new stadium. We know the A's are, intentionally trying to lose ball games. But Chris, let's start with you, your own thoughts on A's fans essentially showing up for the home opener, just trying to keep their team in their city, and then your thoughts on if the A's should stay in Oakland.
Now this certainly is a developing story, a big story. Last year, the A's fans also boycotted their home opener, and it's continuing this year. It's looking more and more like the A's are either trying to work out some sort of deal to stay in Oakland, or they're just going to leave and go to Vegas. It's entirely up to the city of Oakland to basically make their move, or it's checkmate for them. As for if they stay or not, sure, I'd like to see them stay. I don't think that I think that Oakland having basically all of their sports teams leave in like the past 5 years or so, that's a little absurd. It's like what like is Oakland that bad of a city that you just can't stay there?
From everything I've heard, yes.
I can definitely see that. Um, but if they stay in Oakland, good for them. If they leave and go to Vegas, doesn't really affect me. Um, but I'd like to see them stay in Oakland. What about you,
Josh,
Josh?
what's good to you?
I'm going to try and keep my emotions in check on this one because this pisses me off. The A's need to stay in Oakland. Vegas has not shown any type of excitement about them possibly coming. And I just want to clarify one thing. It wasn't that they boycotted their home opener last year, Chris. They actually did a reverse boycott against the Tampa Bay Rays
Yeah.
on June 13th. So
Oh,
normally a boycott is you don't go and all that.
Yeah.
Well, with the reverse boycott, they tried to get as many fans into the Coliseum as they could. Whereas this time, fans tried to stay out of the Coliseum, tailgate in the parking lot, and have a big party.
Yeah, I mean, home opener was not a pretty sight to see. I mean, it looked like there was barely 1,000 people in that stadium.
Right. But, the A's have been in Oakland for, I believe, over 50 years, something like that. And, for me, I grew up knowing them as the Oakland A's. I know they had a stint in Philadelphia, they had a stint in Kansas City, but I've only known them as the Oakland Athletics. And Vegas, fine, you can have an expansion team, but don't take the A's out of Oakland. It's the same way I feel about the Rams and the city of St. Louis. It's the same way I feel about the Chargers and San Diego, Seattle and the Supersonics. I could go on and on and on. This subject really pisses me off, so I'm trying to keep my emotions in check as best as I can.
See, I agree more with Chris than you on this one, Josh, because my whole thing on it, and I understand where you're coming from. Yes, obviously, there's been situations like Oklahoma City and Seattle and other moving situations like the Rams. I get it. A lot of people are mad that they left St. Louis, but at the end of the day, this is just my opinion on most of these moves. Everybody gets up in arms about for 5 minutes, but at the end of the day, they just become normalized. And it's like for me, I have no emotional attachment. If they stay in Oakland, I'm like, who cares? I think Vegas is one of the most up and coming cities in America. I think the fact that they're going to get an expansion NBA team and remind you of the fact that 10 years ago, nobody thought Vegas was a sports town. And they put hockey there, which everybody thought was a disaster. And yet those fans actually support the Golden Knights. and everybody thought that football there was going to be a disaster, and yet maybe their football team isn't great, but that stadium in Allegiant is beautiful by all accounts, and it's bringing money into the city, and everybody thinks baseball in Vegas is going to be a disaster. Well, nothing in Vegas is really a disaster, and maybe the A's can get better players. Maybe it's a better free agent market, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And it does seem like that for most baseball teams, because baseball is a summer sport. But when you're not having to deal with weather a ton, and if you can get more money, obviously being in Vegas, I think the A's franchise may be better off going there.
So the A's come to Cleveland the 19th through the 21st. I would want to go to one of those games, probably the 21st, make a poster that says stay in Oakland, because I fully support this boycott of summer that A's fans are trying to do. They're trying to get fans everywhere to buy into this whole stay in Oakland thing, and I'm fully behind it. They should not go to Vegas. No.
See, to me, if you're going to boycott, you should do the reverse boycott and show the city that you actually care by going to the game. That would be my argument on the city of Oakland.
So here's my thing with this whole thing is, let's say the A's do end up going to Vegas, but then they strike a deal to stay in Oakland for the next 3 to 5 years. How would you feel as an Oakland A's fan? You're like, I want to root for them, but I know they're about to leave. Like, Chris.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and this is just being honest. Do you know very many Oakland A's fans? I mean, they haven't been good. The most they've been good in our lifetime, all three of us are around the similar age, have been they maybe made the wild card once or twice.
And I would say that's mostly due to their owner, John Fisher, scraping the team down to its bare bones.
Well, I agree with that to some extent. I always have thought payroll in baseball is overrated. I mean, you look at teams like Tampa and you look at teams like Cleveland. These are teams who, in the historical past, I think, the Guardians a couple of years ago had the lowest payroll by far in baseball, won their division, and competed with the Yankees in the AL divisional round. So, payroll to me, you got to get players, and I completely understand that. And the more money can help. We see what the Dodgers lineup looks like, Houston, Yankees every year, etc. But it's not the bottom line. It's more about, they did trade away a lot of their talent. And in baseball, unfortunately, the way it works, and we've seen it with Baltimore and the Cubs in the years past, even Houston, before they went on this dynasty, is, you basically are like bad for 5-6 years while you rebuild. But then if you get the prospects right, you can have a 5, 6, 7 year run.
And the A's were good for a couple years. They made it to the wild card in 2014 before they lost to Kansas City. They were in the ALDS against Detroit in 2013. So they've won the American League West a few times. And when the A's are good, the Coliseum is a hard place to go into and win. But when John Fisher is a cheapskate and only cares about making money and nothing else, and he doesn't care about pleasing the fans, you get the situation we're in now. But Chris, let me ask you a question. Hypothetically, if the Browns announced tomorrow that they're going to leave for another city, let's just say Little Rock, Arkansas, just for conversation's sake. But then they came out and said, but we're going to stay in Cleveland for the next 4 seasons. How would you feel about that?
I'm pretty sure there's some sort of thing in the NFL rulebook that's preventing the Browns from actually leaving Cleveland. There's something somewhere in place that the Browns never leave Cleveland again, because the NFL doesn't want to deal with the backlash of Browns fans again.
That's not the question, though, Chris.
I'm giving you a hypothetical.
The question is, if the Browns were to leave, yeah, I'd be disappointed. But for those 3 years, I'm still going to root for them because they're still my home team.
And I agree with that. And the Browns may be, an example of a bad team because I think that those fans, and I told you this before, Josh, they're the most loyal fans in all of sports. And I think those fans would even move to Arkansas to go watch their team. That's how much they care about the Browns.
Okay, so maybe the Browns are a bad example in this case.
But no, I get what you're saying.